Good day, I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. It's Monday, February the 7th, and we've got CEO Aras Azadian of Avicanna joining us. Avicanna is a developer of science-driven and evidence-based cannabinoid wellness, skincare, and pharmaceutical products. We met with Aras in December for a webinar, and the company has since had very strong news flow, including most recently its preliminary 2021 financial results and 2022 guidance. Remember, this is neither a recommendation or investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Do your due diligence. Aras, thanks for joining us today. And let's talk about the guidance you just put out last week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Martin. It's a pleasure to be here. We've had a fruitful 2021. You know, we as a company that is focused on an evidence-based approach of cannabinoids, we've certainly taken the time to produce products that are more proprietary, that have, you know, higher entry barriers, therefore higher margins. You know, and the products really started commercializing in 2021. One of the most important, I guess, variables to consider is that during 2020, as a whole, the company sold about 4,000 units of finished products. And again, when I say finished products, I mean finished proprietary medical products, pharmaceutical products, or functional products. We're not talking about flour in a jar or, you know, pre-rolls. We're talking about, again, medical, more sophisticated products. So 2020, we sold about 4,000 units. 2021, we sold 124,000 units. So that's a major increase, and that is obviously a direct result of products getting approval in various markets, various channels, whether it's the medical channel or more the wellness adult use channels in Canada. Some of that included exports into various countries outside of Canada. So we made a lot of progress, and I think that was a much more qualitative year for us in terms of attaining those commercializations, those product approvals. But you can already start seeing the potential effect of such products and such commercialization efforts in the revenues, where we almost tripled from 2020, which was a lot of one-off sort of licensing fees and, you know, one-off sort of exports that were completed, to 2021, where it was a lot more repeated, consistent revenue generated from finished products. So that was what, you know, the guidance was. It was a great signal in terms of the potential of our products, which is predominantly done through Canada, but you know, it's a good signal in terms of the potential of these products at a global level as we further expand.
So just to zoom in on that, so 125,000 units you sold in 2021?
Yeah.
And now you're forecasting 300,000 units for 2022?
Yeah, I think we're still trying to be relatively conservative, but we're quite confident about those numbers. I think those numbers are going to continue to grow. So again, you know, massive jump, almost a triple from the year before, and we expect, again, as more and more countries allow medical or functional products related to cannabinoids, and we are already expanding into many of those markets. As that further grows, we think the potential ultimately for our type of products is millions of units, you know, across several countries. But we're starting to see signals of that exponential level of growth already.
That 125 you did last year, that was primarily Canadian sales, correct?
It was a combination of Canadian, American, Colombian, and Ecuadorian. So 4 countries, and Brazil. So there's a couple of exports to that. So we're starting, again, some of those are, you know, a few thousand units, but what's I think is important is that we figured out from a regulatory perspective how to enter these products, how to manufacture products that meet the regulatory standards of particular jurisdictions around the world. And those are, I think, huge milestones. So then as those markets evolve and those markets mature, as what Canada has, because Canada is a potentially $5 billion market now. What happens when Brazil, which is, you know, substantially larger in terms of population than Canada, it's roughly 7 times larger than Canada. What happens when Brazil further opens up? And that's a market that we're very active in. So the potential there is very, very high. And that's why we think as we get into, you know, the second half of 2022, where those products, especially the pharmaceutical products, are attaining registration in markets such as Brazil, we're going to be seeing significant growth in terms of units delivered, and also, of course, revenue. But what's more exciting about the revenue within those pharmaceutical models is the margins, because these are manufactured by Avicanna. It's our active ingredients, it's our formulations, it's our intellectual property, our trademarks in most cases. So a lot of that margin is captured by us as we expand into that territory. And I think that's the big differentiation between what we're doing versus the recreational side is we're not, limited to the constraints of a particular territory where a recreational company cannot export. In the United States, they can't even cross state lines. We're exporting. We're playing a global game, and we're not in the cannabis industry. We're in, the multitude of pain, oncology, sleep, dermatology, anxiety, depression. Those are the areas that we're really treating with our products.
And when you talk about good margins in those segments, can you give a ballpark on what kind of margins you're expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the pharmaceutical side, we're in the minimum sort of 60% margin up to the 80% margin on a finished product. And that's, again, because we own the active ingredients, we own the formulations, etc. Where in Canada, we're more in the 30 to 40% margin for the finished products. And that's because here is a lot more competitive, but also here we're essentially outsourcing everything. We're not a manufacturer here. It's not our API, it's not our cannabinoids, but when you compare that again to the recreational side, where we are seeing pretty significant commodification of the flower. We're seeing that if you're selling Kush and I'm selling Kush, the only way we can fight is really through two major aspects, which is quality and price. And you're seeing a lot of price compression, and with the taxes the way they are in terms of the excise taxes, those margins are very, very tight. So that's where I think the industry is getting really beat up on the Canadian side, is that there's commodification, there's price pressure, lots of competition, and there's very little differentiation, where our products are very differentiated within those markets. And that's not the only market. We obviously operate within medical and pharma.
So within the pharma side, in Canada, there'd be 30-40% margins, but rest of the world, because you do your own manufacturing, you would capture that higher 60 to 80%?
In Canada, we're not on the pharma side. In Canada, we're on the medical side. So through Shoppers Drug Mart, for example, okay, are available. So those are in the high 30s and low 40s in terms of margin. Yeah. And because we outsource everything, as you mentioned, and because in Canada they're very price sensitive, the consumers, the market's more mature. Consumers aren't necessarily, or patients aren't necessarily looking at our products and saying, well, this oil has better bioavailability, better absorption, better technology than this coconut oil, MCT oil formula. They're not doing that level of assessment. They're only looking at how much am I paying per milligram. So Canada is very price sensitive. I think the consumer decision making or the patient decision making specifically to the milligrams percent. So that's why the margins are relatively lower, where Canada for us is more of a proof of concept. It's a demonstration of our products, it's data generation for our pharma projects, but the real business model for us is a global medical and pharmaceutical play.
Right. You mentioned Cannabis 2.0 SKUs or SKUs. What do you mean by Cannabis 2.0?
That's pretty cannabis industry lingo, but what that represents is, about 2 years ago, the Canadian government allowed what they called Cannabis 2.0 products to be entered into the market. And what that meant was topicals, more proprietary or more advanced oil formulations in terms of oral products, gummies, edibles,
processed, more refined type products.
Exactly. So they're more derivative type of products. And
yeah,
prior to that, what was Cannabis 1.0 was flour, and then oils, but like oil drops that were just carrier oil.
Yeah.
So our type of products, like Avicanna's intellectual property, could not have been commercialized during that era. During Cannabis 1.0, we thought about it, frankly. We're in Canada. We were obviously quite active here in terms of R&D and clinical trials. We looked at the market. Several people asked us to commercialize our products, and we said, well, all you can do is put your cannabinoids or the extracts into MCT oil and sell it. That's not the kind of products we want to put into a market. We like to put products into the market that are proprietary, that are accurately dosed, that have good stability. If it's an oil drop, we want to have better bioavailability. If it's a sublingual delivery, we want it to be fast acting. If it's a topical, it's either dermatology, which is local, or it's for more analgesic effect, which has to be transdermal. None of that was really allowed during Cannabis 1.0. And then during Cannabis 2.0, these more proprietary products were categorized as Cannabis 2.0, and they started commercializing. But when you look at the market today, it's still about 70% or so Cannabis 1.0 products, because again, most people are just buying flower. Now they might be buying pre-rolls, but still buying flower or vaporizers, right? And I think that's where, again, we believe our opportunity in terms of medical and functional products is a little bit different. We think that segment is going to grow sort of in parallel.
With the 9 million of projected revenue for next year, we talked a little bit about gross margins. Is there, can you talk about what your break even level is, or are you giving that side of the guidance? Will that be profitable or EBITDA profitable?
We have not provided that level of guidance. I can say the objective is for us to reach EBITDA positive during Q4. So we do believe we can achieve that. It's going to be a function of the sales mix. The higher the proportion of international sales, the faster we're going to achieve that, considering the margins. So I think our total opex is around $600,000 or so a month at this stage, which covers R&D, clinical, manufacturing, marketing, legal, finance, being public. It's pretty good for an international company, considering the amount of work that we actually do, the amount of projects. And prior to the recording starting, how many things we got done in the last 2 months. We didn't have a Christmas holidays. We worked, right? And when you look at that, I think our opex is relatively manageable. It's about getting the revenue to the extent that it can cover that. And if the sales are more international, then I would say 3 million gets us into break even. If the sales are more Canadian, then you're closer to 4 million a quarter to get us into break even. But we're certainly getting close. And again, these are, for me, they're the singles, maybe doubles that we're hitting, but we're building we're preparing for a number of home runs, and I think that's going to be the real exciting part.
So we should wrap it up here closely, but what kind of news flow over the next 3 to 6 months should people be expecting? Some like new distribution deals, or just saying, hey, we've got follow-on sales here, or any kind of partnerships or new product launches or science work?
Yeah, there certainly will be some science announcements, as we continue to file patents, we continue to do publications. There will be some very exciting strategic partnerships at a global level that we're going to be announcing. Some major companies that are now finally getting into the cannabis sector, and they've been watching and been involved with our company for a very long time. And I think some of those companies are now not only getting involved in terms of an agreement, but are actually putting together purchase orders and real registrations of products. I think during the next 2 to 6 months, 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a lot of drug registrations in South America that we've been working very hard a very long time on. So you're going to see the next phase of the growth of the company, which is in Canada, where we're doing really well. We're going to continue to manage that. That's going to mature. That's going to become much more consistent growth and consistent revenue. But around the world, you're going to start seeing signals of the success within the global marketplace in terms of drug registration, strategic partnerships, and exports. So it's all sort of coming together. I think the company is certainly matured now in a commercial stage, and I foresee a further separation within the cannabis space in terms of the medical pharma type of companies, us versus the recreational. And hopefully the sentiment that exists today towards the recreational companies for sort of the billions of dollars that's generally been mismanaged in some ways. And obviously, again, the current sentiment is not very positive towards the industry. I want to make sure that we pull Avicanna away from that. We're a very different kind of company, and I think that needs to be better presented. And I think the fundamentals and what we will demonstrate in terms of the progress we're making will help with that.
Right. Aras, that was great. Thanks for the quick update and look into the coming year and what types of news we should be looking for. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Martin.